Garry's Mod, one of the best bad games ever made, has widened as deep as an ocean thanks to the massive community of modders, but it's old. The Source 1 engine is practically a museum piece at this point, and it shows in Gmod. From poor loading times to frequent crashes and poor performance, a modern successor is something players have been looking for some time, a game that doesn't require you to use ancient programs for asset creation, a game that isn't falling apart at the seams. Enter stage left Mod&Play, promising all the flexibility and ease of use of Garry's Mod, but on Unreal Engine 4 with all the graphical, stability and performance upgrades everyone had been yearning for. But was it too good to be true? Yes it was. Mod&Play failed for a few reasons. You know how stability and performance were expected? Yeah, Mod&Play doesn't have either of those. Firing up the game in multiplayer will present you with some of the worst netcode known to man, entities moving similar to a stop motion animation and the frame rate tanking harder than Gmod. Okay, that's bad. But what about flexibility? Does it at least match Gmod on that front? At first glance, yes. Use Unreal Engine 4 as the modding system, with practically free reign to do whatever you want, and while you can't do that now due to both GitHub repositories for the game being taken down, when you could actually mod the game, it was no better. When it comes down to it, the freedom offered by requiring you to just use the engine the game was made in is pointless. At that point, you're less modding the game and more just making your own, requiring you to learn the ins and outs of a huge engine just to make some small add-on. Not to mention you're not going to be hot reloading anything. Ultimately, Mod&Play failed to even match Gmod on any front, and lives in the depths of Steam, forgotten, with mostly negative reviews and unanimous hate. Next is a game that's fairly similar to Mod&Play, but the other side of the coin, Modiverse, promising all the flexibility and ease of use of Garry's Mod, but on Unreal Engine 4 with all the graphical, stability and performance updates everyone had been yearning for. Wait, this feels familiar, doesn't it? Now, in fairness, it seems that unlike Mod&Play, which was certainly a borderline scam to feed off of the Gmod player base, Modiverse seems to have at least started out okay. While I wasn't involved directly, and the Steam reviews seem to all say that the game had decent devs and a community, that had some great potential, and ultimately just died due to the developer abandoning it for whatever reasons, and not as an obvious cash grab like with Mod&Play. Modiverse was, however, flawed for mostly the same reasons as Mod&Play, with the addition of going straight into early access with a $17 price tag for what was essentially nothing more than an early prototype, a collection of ideas of what the game could be. It still didn't provide a scripting environment, requiring potential users to learn an entire engine just to make an add-on. It also suffered from stability issues, however, judging by the trailer and reviews, didn't have terrible performance and netcode like Mod&Play did, but was all but destined to fail due to the bad publicity incurred by selling the game in such an unfinished state, and the lack of a scripting API. Okay, so two random people took a stab at a modern Gmod successor and failed, but wait, Facepunch themselves are trying to make a Gmod successor with s&box. Surely the people who made Gmod would make a perfect sequel, right? Well, here's some background first. Garry's Mod on release, by practically every measure, was an abysmal game, to the point where in fact where games like Mod&Play and Modiverse actually match and even exceed that quality. Of course, back then Facepunch didn't have a sizable team of people with years of experience to make, test and market the game, so surely the Facepunch of today, on the back of years of experience as the creators of Gmod, can make a worthy successor with none of the problems of the previous attempts. Well, s&box's first problem is its biggest, the use of the Source 2 engine. Unlike major alternatives like Unity and Unreal, Source 2 is entirely closed-sourced, proprietary and fairly underdeveloped, which already introduces a gargantuan spanner into the works, and Source 2 isn't really designed for the kind of game they're making, just like Source 1 wasn't designed for the games like Garry's Mod. It's designed for fairly linear, mostly static, finely crafted experiences, which does not match the completely dynamic, non-linear and user-crafted experiences of s&box. But okay, it's unfair to assume that they can't make Source 2 work, so let's take a look at the key points from previous attempts. Flexibility. s&box is extremely flexible without requiring you to directly mod the game like with Mod&Play and Modiverse, providing only a thin layer of abstraction over the internal game functions. Graphics. s&box is fairly lacking in the graphics department. Due to the games Source 2 was made to make, dynamic lighting really suffers. Combined with the extremely basic included assets leads to a game that looks plasticky, almost like Roblox. Stability. s&box is extremely unstable. Just looking through the massive issues repository makes this clear. While it doesn't suffer as bad as Mod&Play, it probably doesn't even match Modiverse. Some key aspects of stability issues I encountered while playing are viz meshes being called almost randomly when you look in certain directions. Proper spawn intersecting with map geometry will instantly kill on contact, and the physics itself is absolutely terrible, with clipping through other colliders being commonplace to the point where Gmod's physics is actually more stable. Performance. Now here's where s&box completely falls apart. Either due to the engine, the implementation, or the assets, spawning a few ragdolls or 10 to 20 props will tank the frame rate to unplayable levels, even on my fairly beefy hardware. And if all of that wasn't enough to show you just how bad it is, the game tries to be more like Roblox and Gmod, with no support for maintaining a selection of add-ons, requiring every slight modification to use an entirely different game mode. Now at this point, if you were thinking that there's no hope for a modern Gmod successor, I wouldn't blame you. Hell, even Facepunch failed to remake their own game. But there's one more game, one more chance for a worthy successor. Now at first glance you might see the fact that it's fairly small, that it uses Unreal Engine, and say, yeah sure, this is just another Mod&Play or Modiverse, but you'd be wrong. Starting with flexibility, Nanos World provides a Lua scripting environment akin to gmod, and while it's not as flexible yet, the update pace is so frequent that you can expect to see popular requests added in mere days. An example of this would be the input library which I got added. But despite the lack of flexibility, compared to the latest versions of gmod mind you, the API is far more modern and significantly nicer to use compared to gmod's bloated mess of terrible optimization and deprecated functions. For graphics, it's obviously a win. It's running in Unreal Engine, making it beat out gmod and s&box just as easily as Mod&Play and Modiverse do on this front. The game is also surprisingly stable, with things like continuous collision detection for small objects to prevent clipping, showing that the devs both know what they're doing and care enough to use their knowledge. Performance is the only area that has a few issues, although many of these are likely due to the testing map being old and unoptimized, but explosions can spike you easily. And if you're worried about mounting multiple add-ons, well that's already a thing, along with a host of other features not yet added to other attempts at modern gmod. Now if you want to jump right in and play the game, don't. Not because I don't think the game's worth playing, but because practically everyone who's currently a tester, including me, are programmers and artists working on game modes, asset packs, and packages, so there's very few servers to play on. If, however, you are a programmer or an artist and want to try out the modding experience yourself, then join their Discord and sign up to become a tester, links in the description. You can also find links to the website, Steam page, and documentation down there if you want more info. There's currently a Halloween playtest going on which you can register for on the Steam page, which will get you temporary access to partake in the event. I would show some more diverse gameplay here, but most, if not all, game modes are very much a work in progress at the moment, so you'll have to wait a little while for projects to start reaching a mostly completed state. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and I hope you're looking forward to seeing where this game goes as much as I am.